let's just dissect this a little bit more. We can speak to Arash Ari Aramesh, who's a national security and foreign policy analyst. He's based in Houston in Texas, from where he joins us now. Welcome to the program, sir. First of all, what are your thoughts? What kind of battle do you think this will be? Will it be long and protracted or fairly quick?
Well, that depends on how much sort of resistance ISIS is trying to put up. But the battle for Mosul took a long time. The campaign started over a year ago, and it took over almost a good year, longer than a year actually, to finally clear Mosul. But Mosul was the second largest city in Iraq, a major ISIS stronghold, and obviously the urban war, the street fighting, and this sort of house to house and neighborhood fighting just went on and went on and went on. Tal Afar is a much smaller town, but it is both strategically and symbolically important to ISIS. It's strategically important because it sits in a very on a very important supply and logistics route. It is close to Turkey, and it's also not that far away from the Syrian border. So a lot of the logistics and supply that comes for ISIS comes through this Highway 40, which sits right in the north of Tal Afar, and it's been a very important sort of supply route for ISIS. But Tal Afar has also been a hotbed of insurgency and extremism since the U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003. A lot of Sunni resistance and Sunni groups actually carried out operations or committed major recruiting in Tal Afar in 03, 04, and then the peak of the insurgency in 06 and 07. So this is nothing new. Sort of Al-Qaeda morphed into ISIS and Tal Afar. The fall of Tal Afar and the collapse of Tal Afar and falling into the hands of the Iraqi government means a significant logistical and combat blow to ISIS, but also a significant symbolic blow, because what keeps ISIS or the caliphate relevant is controlling actual territory and actual ground. They are losing more and more ground in Iraq, and they're losing more and more ground in Syria. And once they evaporate, once they lose all their major strongholds and controlled territory in Iraq and Syria, at that point, how relevant are they? And that's a big question. So I think they're going to resort to more sort of lone wolf attacks and sort of symbolic, magnificent attacks, but ISIS becomes less and less relevant in terms of an Islamic caliphate day after day.
Right, and of course, as we were discussing with our correspondents, we've got to keep a big eye here on the humanitarian situation. We've got at least 10,000 within the city, or 40,000 within the city. Nobody really knows exactly how many, but a total of 50,000 overall, there or thereabouts. What are your concerns about that, and how to try and ensure people's safety?
Usually the weakest elements in each city are the ones who are left behind. People who have access or have means of travel, they fled the city. This was the case in Mosul. This was the case in this is also the case in Tal Afar. Two groups of people are the most vulnerable: people who are weak, elderly, sick, women, children, and the poor, and also people who are being held hostage as human shields by ISIS. Let's not forget that ISIS is not exactly leaving the gates of the town open, letting people leave. So unfortunately, in these situations, you have the most vulnerable groups of people who are the last remnants of that city, and they're the ones who will take the the brunt of the humanitarian and civilian casualties in this disaster, in this war. We don't know the numbers exactly. The estimates are from 10,000 to 50,000, as you can tell. That's a 40,000 sort of range, which tells you it's not a very accurate estimate. But having said that, there are major concerns. And a second concern is the role of non-government militias. In the battle for Mosul, the Shia militias supported by Iran, for the most part, sat out because Mosul is a major Sunni city, and they wanted to make sure that the Iraqi army, the Iraqi military on the ground, carried out most of the offensive, so they wouldn't alienate or terrorize the Sunni population in Mosul.
All right,
this
Arash,
is also going to
have to leave it
Tal
there.
Afar. We don't know. There seems to be,
Yeah,
sure.
I do appreciate your perspective on this. Very interesting, great analysis of the situation there. Thanks very much indeed, Arash Ari Aramesh.